Okay, we're ready.
Okay, item number 13, approve Trinity Eco Park Research and Drainage Improvement Funding request. Mr. Driscoll?
Well, I guess this item sort of landed with me as a sponsor for the agenda item, perhaps because I've been advocating for stormwater management as a kind of a program direction for West Dakota. Ken Steinken will be telling us about this in just a minute. I really haven't been involved much other than we all heard at our last meeting. Well, it wasn't as our last meeting, it was a couple meetings back where we heard about some problems that were needed to be fixed. The proposal is in our packet. We've all had a chance to review it. I haven't looked at it in great detail, but I think this project is a very good example of a very nice improvement to stormwater management in the Rapid City area, and I'm anxious to hear the details from Mr. Steinken. Before we proceed, I'll put a motion on the table to approve funding of $24,500 as requested in the project proposal for the first phase of the first proposed phase for the Trinity Eco Prayer Park upgrade.
Mr. Chair.
Is there a second to the motion?
Mr. Chair, can I reiterate the fact that motions are supposed to be held until after? And also, we did not hear from the public on the last item. And usually we ask for any comments from the public.
So noted. Was there a second to the motion? I'll second the motion. And before we go to discussion, I'll let you give your little presentation, Ken.
I want to stand in front of that, but I want to get the microphone here. How's that going to work?
We can turn it if you want.
Oh, maybe it's more like that, maybe.
Pointer still there?
Oh, I got the pointer right there. I'm ready for that. All right, I want to start by acknowledging that thanks in part to West Dakota Water Development funding initially in the construction of Trinity Eco Prayer Park, the park is doing essentially what it was designed to do. And go ahead and have you go ahead there. Well, no, this is a couple of these are slides that you may have remember seeing a couple of meetings ago, but we specifically requested funding from West Dakota Water to install this drain field, which is under the central lawn area, and it increases the storage capacity of the park. Go ahead. So the park is a innovative green infrastructure that serves as a stormwater retention facility. It collects runoff from neighboring impervious surfaces. In fact, almost all, I'd say all the water that comes in there everything is impervious surrounding the park. But then it also maintains the ability to revert quickly back to its more frequent identity as a park, which makes it kind of a unique facility. So that's one thing it was intended to do. Go ahead. Oh, this. Well, before we go on, yeah. So this shows some of the stormwater collection, how it can accumulate. This is coming in from Hardy's there, and as I mentioned, this is Hardy's parking lot. The church parking lot's over here. The alley's right there. It's all impervious surface that the water is coming in at. Okay. Good.
Did I jump?
Oh yeah, you did jump on. Also, and this is an important part, it's a model of native plantscaping or xeriscaping. And what's significant about that is it demonstrates water conservation. It uses native species of plants for the park, everything except the central lawn area, and they survive on natural precipitation, no matter how little or how much. The stuff grows in the park regardless. We don't have to water it, so it saves all that potable water that people use to water their landscaping. Go ahead. And then also, this is not necessarily a water issue, but it has to do with the environment. It's an illustration of independent green energy. We generate almost all our own electricity in the park. But in addition to this, we also have the park being an aesthetic. Whoops, did you skip one? No, go ahead. Okay, that's good. A social aspect, it adds to the downtown area. And the next one, this is kind of telling, this is what the lot looked like in 2010. And this was 2016, and a lot of these plants have grown up quite a bit more. So it has that benefit to the downtown area in that sense. Next slide. It's also a home to green infrastructure research. Go ahead. And education. Site that some of you here actually have been there and toured this site for some of these different functions. So the park has been doing a lot, but has the potential to do a lot more, and that's why I'm here today. Asking West Dakota Water to join with us once again to increase the green performance, to increase the research potential, and at no extra charge, increase the social value of the park. Go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, next one. Yeah. This just shows the quick recovery. Remember, this 24-hour period, or 26 hours. This is June 20th, and then next day there's a picnic in the park. Okay, go ahead. So this is what has motivated the whole thing, to come and try to make the park better. Water respects no engineer, and it submits to no architectural drawing. We had a great plan how this park was going to work. But you'll see this right here. The water is supposed to go this way. But like I said, the water pays no attention to what the engineers say. I heard somebody say recently, water will go uphill to get into a house if it has to. I disagree with that, but that kind of makes the point. All right, go ahead. So the vision of the park is down at the bottom here, to explore ways to work with nature instead of against it. And so that's what we're looking at doing. How can we do that? One of the park's goal is to work with nature, and to do that we observe nature. So go ahead. And the South Dakota Mines researchers and staff, this is me looking for turtles. Oh, I'm looking for the drain to try to figure out what's going on there. We have observed the way the park works and how it doesn't work, and come up with ways to improve it and increase the park's ability to handle stormwater runoff, and do it in such a way to expedite its unique ability to alternate between its identities, its dual roles as a stormwater management facility and also a recreational space. So to that end, we're looking to West Dakota Water to partner with us once again by providing a $24,500 grant to assist us with the project expenses of $66,010. And specifically, we're going to be looking at three areas that were identified by the South Dakota School of Mining and Technology Rain Garden report. And those will be broken down into two different phases. Yeah, this explains I think that you gave them a link to that rain garden report. And I know it's long, it's like 57 pages, but they do a nice, thorough job. All right, Dan, go ahead. So these are the three main items that they came up with in their report to improve the main drainage channel, and we've identified that as being phase one, to maximize retention pond holding capacity, and we've identified that as phase two, and also to alter the drainage design to decrease sediment loading, which is a real significant problem in the park because it does service impervious surfaces. So there's always stuff that's washing into the park. Go ahead, thank you. Oh, and on your, I handed out these here. Pretty much the letters indicate different phases or different items on the phasing. And we're looking at items A through E being part of phase one. F is kind of a wild card. We'll do that if we can. And then G and H are considered phase two of the project. So phase one, the first thing we would want to do is address the drainage channel capacity, and part of that relates to what I mentioned before. That little cut that I showed you before where the water was running, that's right along here. So instead of going this way, the water comes across here and then goes out into the main lawn area. And that was designed to be an area to hold water, but it's supposed to be a secondary holding area. Since the water found a way to get there, it turns into, even in light rains, the water will go into the main lawn area, and it's not functioning quite properly. And you can see here all the gray, the sediment. This is that same area. You can see the sidewalk here. That water just runs up there across the sidewalk through the shelter, and then we'll see in a little bit it also pools in front of the shelter. Not the most desirable. Okay, Dan? As I mentioned, that sediment loading is a problem that we didn't anticipate it being as severe as it is. The park has only been built about 5 years ago, and this was, I think it was in March. This shows all the sediments that were built up in there. One of our groundskeepers came in here and cleaned that out. He picked the rocks out, he dug the sediment out, and within 2 months, there's sediment that is accumulated back into that area. So we're looking at a way to reduce that, and the proposal is to put in a sediment forebay, and that would be installed in this area here. And we're actually going to put in an impervious surface in there that's going to help us catch those sediments, and as a side benefit, we'll be able to come in there and scoop the sediments out and remove it, and then prevent it from going into the park. And as it goes into the park, that silt gets into the river rock beds, and it decreases the park's holding capacity and infiltration capacity, because all the voids get filled up with silt. So the idea is to try to capture it before it gets into the park and improve that. And then also, as part of the process related to the research, we'll be able to measure the mass of sediment that's entering into the park instead of just, because it'll be in a relatively controlled area. Okay, Dan? And as I mentioned, the maintenance and research went together there. But here, this is specifically designed for research, and that is, as part of the forebay, we'll install these weirs like this, and they'll have interchangeable weir plates, and those weir plates allow the measurement of the volume of water going in and out into the park, which is something that we don't have right now. We don't know how well the park is performing because we can't track the volume of water that's going into the park. And I put this drawing here. I have no idea what this means, but I understand that engineers, they're able to, Jason told me that this is true, you're able to make a calculation based on the shape of the weir plate, and then you would use I believe it's a pressure transducer, is that correct? That monitors the height and volume of the water, and then you can calculate what's entering into the park. And this would allow us to do some things that we haven't been able to do yet as far as research is concerned. Go ahead. This is not necessarily specifically related to West Dakota water, but I did want to mention this because as a result of this drainage, the water coming over the sidewalk, it ends up here in front of the shelter on the north side, and during the winter, it builds up this massive ice accumulation. And there's no way to do anything about that. And this is in March. You can see that ice is still there, accumulated in front of the shelter. It's not a very safe situation. And we would be looking at installing a French drain system right here in front of the park, so when water does, in front of the shelter, so when water does get onto that sidewalk, it'll have the ability to infiltrate down into the lawn area and then go into that drain field that West Dakota helped design. It would connect to that and hopefully alleviate some of that ponding, which in the winter turns into ice. Maybe we should open up an ice rink. No. Go ahead. And this is phase 2 that we're looking at. These are the ponds on the east and the west. That would be G and H. And right now, for some reason, the connection between the two ponds was not that good, and the only way that the water can get there is by flowing over the top of the sidewalk. And it has to get really, really high to do that. And when it does that, it's going all sorts of other places besides. So the idea is to create a lower connection between those two, and then also put a raised drain at the end here so that the pond would be able to hold water for a temporary time. Right? So, so far we've got some commitments to paying for this project. The Trinity Lutheran Endowment Foundation, which is the owner of the property that the park has committed $15,000. Terrasite Design is offered $5,000 for in-kind services. Lauren Doyle Concrete also willing to donate $3,000 worth of services, and then Hanson Mapping and Survey, $2,000 worth of services. So we have a total of $25,000 committed at this point. The grant from West Dakota Water Development would put us over the amount that we would need to accomplish the Phase 1 goals, and that would be $47,782 is the threshold, and the money combined would get us to $49,500. The idea being that we would be able to continue fundraising and looking for grants to accomplish the Phase 2 items. Hopefully we'd be able to do it just as one project, but we want to have that flexibility. I'd like to see us get this Phase 1 done before winter so we could possibly address that ice buildup that occurs in the park. It makes me nervous that we have people that are in the park in the wintertime, and it just makes me nervous that people are walking through there and there's that ice. So anyway, I'm grateful for your opportunity to share this request, and appreciate your consideration of the proposal, and of course I'm open to any questions at this time. A drink of water.
Yeah, get your drink of water.
No, go ahead.
I have a couple of different questions.
Sure.
One is, does this, when do you expect we make payments on this? It's been brought, kind of at the end of the year. Would half be done in 2020 and half in 2021, or how have you thought about that?
Well, ideally, like I said, I'd like to see Phase 1 completed before the end of the year, preferably before November, but I don't know how realistic that is, if we're able to pull that off or not, based on contractors' construction schedules and that type of thing.
And you recall when we did the first project, I think Dan has a copy of the MOU that there was a signature process. Is that part of this package somewhere, and I missed it? There was a memorandum of understanding written,
right,
so that we could, if you got funding today, you would then be able to have it signed by the chairman.
I don't have that now. Right, I think we did that after we received the funding, but that's something that we'd be delighted to do. Yeah, I told Dan when I talked to him about whatever the appropriate procedure is, we have no concern about that.
Those are my three initial questions. It looks like we've spent money on this in the past, and the thing that's changed is the timing, so that we can't ask this type of question, get an answer, and then vote. So now it's, we can spend up to $25,000 and one vote, so it makes it a little more difficult. But I don't know, Dan, did you bring a copy of the MOU that you used?
I was just looking for that. It's in an email.
Yeah, I have a copy at home. Yeah, I didn't bring that.
It might take me a minute here, but
Are there other questions?
Yeah.
Any other questions? James?
I have a couple things on this, and I did talk to Ken. I have some concerns. The first of which is that preliminary engineering has not been completed, and it's been a board policy that we don't pay for any preliminary engineering. In fact, we denied Green Valley their preliminary engineering design because it hadn't been completed yet. And just having an overhead map, there is no designs of pipe size or anything else, which are included in preliminary engineering, and this does not have those. The other thing is, there's been no bids from contractors. The estimate we're looking at is an engineer's estimate, which, if you've ever been on any elected thing, engineers are usually, sometimes they're right on the money, but sometimes they're off by as much as 50% on a project. There's been no bids from contractors. The potential bidders that we're looking at are church members. So no bid comparisons can be made to verify we're comparing apples to apples. In my field, in construction, we see people telling people all the time, we're going to give you a $5,000 free pass. What they don't realize is they were billed double. And I cannot say that's happened here without a competing bid from a single contractor who's not a church member. And because there's no contractor bids, I would suggest that we wait until there is a physical bid from a contractor and the engineering has been completed, because contractors cannot bid an overhead picture. They need pipe measurements and complete design plans, which are part of a preliminary engineering. Also, I've had a lot of constituents, they knew this was coming up today. They would very much like, I don't know how often the park is cleaned by the church staff. Some of them coming from out of town notice that there is drug needles and knives and lots of fast food trash around the park, and they would like it more taken care of.
A couple of factual corrections. Only one of the people on the list of committed funds is a church member. The others are not. And I've got somebody in the park all the time, and there are no drug needles. There is nothing like that. There is trash. There's lots of vodka bottles in the recycle bin. People put them in there. I'm constantly fascinated by that fact, but that's where they end up. So I would take exception to that, James. I'm down there a lot. If they found something, I'd like to know about it.
They had it picked up by the police. Police came down and picked it up.
Well, I have never seen it. It's possible. It could happen. So, yes, Nathan.
I'm going to preface my comments first by saying that I like Ken. Ken and I fought like cats and dogs when he sat on the board here.
True story.
But I think we respected each other. I respect Ken. I think he took the dollars that were allocated to the original project and came up with a good project. It looks nice down there. So kudos on what you did with West Dakota dollars.
Thank you.
I would reiterate the concern that Director Bialotta mentioned. When I was looking at this, what caught my attention was what Director Bialotta mentioned was an estimate, but typically I am an engineer, and I can tell you that when I work up an estimate, that's what it says. It says engineer's estimate. It's not called an opinion of probable cost. And I think the reason why they chose that particular language is because they didn't know, because the engineering hadn't been done on it, and they just didn't know. They were just kind of putting the swag to it. So from my perspective, I think, for us to properly consider this, there should be more work done on that. I think there should be a more definitive, there should be some kind of engineering done so that you've got a good idea of actual quantities that would be needed and what the actual work elements would be for the proposal. The other concern that I have with this is that we've already funded it once. So I'm not sure if how appropriate it would be for us to go back and provide additional funding to this project that we've already funded. So I just wanted to let you know that I respect you, I like you, but I'm not going to vote in favor of it for those reasons. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your second concern there, Nathan, and I understand that too. I guess it's a question, that issue is a question of whether or not the board thinks that this is a worthy project to invest more money in. I mean, I see that. That's the question. But I guess when we look at the ability to enhance the performance of it, to make it a research facility that, again, kind of like the previous Heidi and Dr. Langwall we're talking about, that if we can provide a facility that allows us to do study that helps us improve water issues in the area, then I would see that that's a potential value to it. But yeah, I understand. That's a very valid question.
Can you comment a little bit more on his question? Is the engineering ready to go, and the bid process? I mean,
I guess
are there estimates?
No, not specifically. And as a nonprofit, we're in kind of a catch-22 situation. We don't want to pay for engineering for a project that isn't going to get funded. I mean, to us, that's not a good use of money. So we don't want to pour a huge ton of money into getting a very precise, specific thing, and then say, well, we came up, $50,000 short. So, we spent all the money engineering, and what do we have? We have nothing. So that's the quandary I have. I don't say that's the correct approach. I'm not sure what the solution to that is. I have to raise more money, and I don't want to do that. It's not a fun thing.
I spent quite a bit of time looking at this proposal, and I understand that TerraSite used the words opinion of probable cause, but I was a consulting engineer for a number of years and put together these kind of proposals for projects. You don't, you go out there and do some preliminary work, and you've shown that TerraSite Design has been out there and obviously taken a look at it, and no, they don't have a breakdown for each item.
Right.
But generally, if you're going to bid, and I don't know if you're planning on bidding this, but if you go to a bid, you do have $6,500 in there for final design, engineering, and landscape work, which is that must be a hard number. I assume they put this cost proposal together.
Right, that's their proposal.
That's their proposal. So the way I look at this document that you submitted is really a preliminary engineering report that TerraSite designed. He didn't call it preliminary engineering, but this is the kind of estimates that I gave for many, many years as a consulting engineer to my client, because you haven't went out there and actually did the field design or survey and design and all that. Mm-hmm. And so I assume that based on their expertise in this particular area, have they worked for you before?
Yeah, some of the people in TerraSite were in forefront design.
Oh, that's
involved in the building of the park.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable with this being a preliminary engineering report, which you're not asking us to pay for.
Right.
You're asking us to pay for final design as part of your proposal.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I didn't tell you that, James. That was kind of my take on the situation too. That this was a preliminary design. The TerraSite has been on site. They're not just ballparking stuff. They've been out there. They walked out. They've invested some time in it. And the concrete, they proposed the cost of the concrete, and we met with a concrete contractor out there, and he looked at their numbers and said, "Yep, that sounds right. That's what I could do it for that."
Mr. Chair, can I respond to that? With no size of pipe, with no scale of work, there is no way a contractor can give any kind of bid whatsoever. And if, Dan, you did a lot of work like this, how many change orders did you sign?
Nothing out of the ordinary.
So a lot.
No.
Did you change the size of pipe? Because
Yeah,
we
I
don't even
changed-
have a size of pipe on this.
You don't necessarily
Green
put the size
Valley
of the
came
pipe.
to us with more than this, and you shut them down for not having engineering.
I'm not, I don't want to argue with you.
Well,
Jim.
no, I'm not
I
arguing.
told
I'm
you what my
saying,
opinion is, and you have
do
your
I have the
opinion.
floor or not?
Well, you're talking to me.
No.
Yes,
You
you are.
shut down Green Valley because they didn't have engineering. When they said, hey, we need sewer lines installed in this subdivision, this street, this street, this street. They said it's going to be somewhere in this ballpark to this ballpark. You shut them down and said, do you need a
No.
preliminary
I
engineering,
told their engineer, we need a preliminary engineering report that you have to fund.
a site
They had-
survey
when he
is
came to us,
not
he
an
didn't- He
engineer's.
didn't have a document like this when he came to us. He didn't have a preliminary engineering report. He hadn't done one yet. And we told him that we don't fund preliminary engineering.
I'm still looking
report,
for
which
one.
is true. In my opinion, this is somewhat of a preliminary engineering report.
Because they stamped it preliminary? Because that's the word I mentioned to Ken that it needed to be last month.
Yeah, I know he did. But Nathan's got his hand up, then you did.
Is this actually stamped? So typically, an engineering report would be stamped by a professional engineer. I don't even see a name on here anywhere. I see the company name, but I don't see
Right.
a name of
I
a
don't-
person.
It's not stamped, I don't think.
Yeah. So
It's not a preliminary report.
technically, it would not be a preliminary engineering report. A board of engineering, looking at something like this, if it wasn't stamped, to sell it as an engineering report would probably be a violation of the registration standards.
I never stamped one preliminary engineering report in my whole career.
Yeah, well,
The final design plans and specifications, I stamped.
we get, the stuff that I see, even submittals oftentimes are stamped, so, and
I never
I
did.
don't,
And I'm a registered professional engineer and land surveyor.
yeah. Well, I'm a PE also, so I'm just saying that I think that's technically the standard.
This is
I
more of a bid report.
disagree.
Mr. Chair, this even says proposal on it. This is a bid proposal for an engineering firm to get the engineering preliminary. Ken already said verbatim, they're not going to pay for the engineering if they don't get the contract, the funds. Then, let's say the actual engineering report and bids come in at $50,000 higher. He's already stated that he could not go out and get that money. Those are usually huge red flags for this board. One, no engineering. Second, the inability to pay because we have no fixed contract bid price yet. Anytime USGS has come in or School of Mines, they say this is the price. They don't say we think we're going to be in this ballpark.
And Dan, you had,
So under your pledges for support, you show 5,000 of in-kind from TerraSite Design.
Correct.
And then on your project budget, you show 6,500 for design. So does the 6,500, is that above and beyond the
No.
5,000 or so? That would be included, so basically the
5,000
engineering.
would be applied toward that.
Yeah, okay.
any other questions?
So it is above and beyond.
No, the 5,000 would be applied to the 6,500.
So you only need to pay 1,500 to get the preliminary engineering?
No, it would be the final engineering.
So where's the preliminary? Because
I
there's
would
no
agree with-
measurements.
Right, yeah.
And usually you see at least a pipe measurement, flow, something. I'm not seeing anything except for
I
an
understand.
overhead proposal to get an engineering contract. And as a point of fact, who is the church member? Which firm?
Doyle Concrete,
The concrete guy.
yeah.
And so, by his word, we are to understand that no other contractor could do it for his price or less, even with his in-kind donation.
Well, I don't know about that. We haven't asked that question. But he did do initial work on the park. I know he shoots a straight price and takes good care of the situation, so.
Okay, so I have one follow-up. Terrasite did the original engineering for the Echo Park.
Some of the people involved, Terrasite kind of split off from Forefront, so some of the people
Okay.
involved,
And then Doyle did the concrete.
correct.
And you're having problems with the way it was built the first time.
I
And
addressed
you
that.
want us to use the same people that made the mistakes last time.
They didn't make mistakes. I already explained that, James.
When there's a
That
grade,
water does what it wants to do. You can't anticipate everything the water's going to do. I'm not going to have that conversation with you. You can think what you want. That's fine. I'm not going to convince you of anything, so I'd just rather move on, to be honest with
You
you.
had something, Dan?
Two topics, two items. One, a question for Ken. Lost train of thought, sorry. Go on without me, it'll come back.
Well, is there any other discussion?
Dan.
Oh, Dan.
Dan, so I assume the original drain tile, you're not gonna dig that up, that's still
Correct.
functional, that hasn't
Yep.
been clogged up.
Yeah, I think those pictures of showing how quickly that lawn drains indicates that that's still functional quite well.
That's my only question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's back.
Okay.
So Terrasite has been working with you to date to get you this far.
Yes.
And certainly from my standpoint, I have to agree with Chairman Bierke that whether this is called a formal preliminary design or not, I'm very comfortable that it's within the bounds of our guidelines for West Dakota.
Okay. Seeing no more questions, all in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
nay,
Opposed, same sign? You said aye? Or aye?
nay, nay.
Oh, okay, all opposed, same sign. So
Yeah.
you're saying no?
No.
No.
Okay. Let's have a roll call. Then we'll find out.
Are we going to take public comment first yet, or no? Or are we just going to let them sit and spin?
If if somebody from the public wants to speak, go ahead.
Chairman opens it up to the public. So,
I'm opening it up to the public.
Yeah, I don't live in Rapid City, but I'm a taxpayer in West Dakota. With Rapid City's, I couldn't find Rapid City's participation in this as far as funding.
The city of Rapid City?
Right.
This is an independent project. Yeah, the city's not involved. It's a privately owned piece of property that functions as a public park.
Okay, so the Rapid City residents are going to benefit from it, and those of us who live outside the city limits who don't use that park have to pay into it, but you want us to pay into it, and we get no benefits out of it.
You're welcome to use the park. I guess I don't understand what you're asking.
Well, it should be shared. It's in Rapid City. My opinion is Rapid City residents should be paying their fair share as well. So I'm just curious as to why they're not doing it.
It has to do with the fact that it's a stormwater, it's a demonstration of how to manage stormwater. And this organization, that's what their main function is to deal with water issues. So that's why we come here, is because it's a demonstration project for stormwater. And then it functions as a park when it's not a stormwater facility, which is most of the time.
I was still open to the public. The board members already spoke.
Okay, so let's follow up on that. So there's no other funding, like federal funding, since it is a stormwater issue? The federal funds don't get involved in this?
No.
And why is that?
They didn't apply.
In some ways, we try to be independent. We try not to draw on federal funding and things like that.
Because it's a church,
Yeah, well, no, that's not because
can't.
it's a church, it's just because,
separation of church and state.
no, not that.
Oh, because it's
That's
a
not
church?
an issue. Yeah, no, it's just because, it's for the very reason what your concerns are, Nathan and James, that we try not to suckle at the government teat too much. I mean, that, we're trying, but most of our money is raised independently, and this just happens to be a group that I think is a very natural fit to support what we do.
Anything else from the public? Seeing none, let's move with the roll call.
Okay. Motion's up there. Jovic,
Nay.
Driscoll,
Yes.
Yerke,
Yes.
Hoth,
Yeah.
Harris,
Yes.
Violata,
No.
Mack,
Yes.
Williams, Nautical. Motion carries 5-3.
Okay, thank you.
So we communicate about doing MOU.
Excuse me, hey, can we hear that roll call again? I thought I heard more than 3 no's. I may have been mistaken, but
We
I
just
thought I
did the
did.
roll call.
I know, but
Jovic, Williams, and Violata.
is that the only people that said no?
Yes.
Correct.
All right, that moves us to,
This, I'm not sure how to proceed here. Should I write a check, or do we need a MOU of some sort? This is last time.
I would suggest, Ken, since we had an MOU last time, that we use that similar language that you folks signed and we signed.
Do you want me to put it together, or do you want to work together, or what do you want to do?
It's on our letterhead.
Huh?
It's on our letterhead.
I guess I don't want to be totally responsible for it. I want us to be working with somebody else.
I can,
Okay.
I can work with you, and then Ken, if we need you involved, we can
Okay,
we
sure.
can get a hold of you and get the right language in there to cover this particular phase of your project.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time and your patience, your interest.
Thanks for
Come
coming.
by the park. Those of you who haven't been there, you've been there.
Got pictures of me.
Anything else, Dan?
No.
Okay, then we're going to move on to item 14, approve the 2021 budget. Robert?
Okay, well, we're gonna just, right now, program will require a motion and a second to actually approve the budget that we talked about last week, or last meeting. And in that budget, we proposed raising our limit to the maximum of $219,000. I can't see it. That's okay. 219,168. So that is our project for next year, and it doesn't include the 2 we just approved. That's why I need to know in what budget do you want to include that? Are these all for the 2020 budget, the last 2 that have been?
It'd be
approved?
2020 budget, yeah.
2020?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you have more to say?
Well, I guess my only thought would be, I don't know how the School of Mines is going to bill us. They're going to bill us monthly, periodically, how they're going to do that. And I assume we'll be getting bills in 2021. So I think you could go either way, but if you wanted to, you could maybe put half of that in the 2021 as a line item. So that would be my only thought on that. Otherwise, the Trinity Park is going to be all this year, it sounds
Yes.
like.
Yeah, we could do that.
So
Excuse me.
that would be, what was that, 24,800?
The school mines?
Yeah.
Yes.
So 12,400.
I think it was 24.5.
Mr. Chair?
The Trinity is 20.
24.8 was the school mines,
Yeah,
24.5
right,
was.
good.
If you look at the School of Mines plan, they are paying those students for first quarter of fall semester. They're gonna want all that money almost in
Why
its
don't we just put
entirety
it
this
in
year.
20?
Yeah, let's just put it in 2020.
With the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, you put it, 20 that's a
For
good idea.
both
Good
projects, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, because I thought somebody was talking about splitting it up.
yeah, okay, thanks.
So, nothing else has changed since the last meeting, really. As far as the projects and what I propose for administration costs. So I would recommend we just approve this budget. I will add that it's basically what we published in the paper, which is in the packet. So this was published 2 consecutive weeks in our 3 papers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
So can we get a sense of the public from?
Why don't we have a motion on the floor and then I'll ask for
Well, I'm going
comment.
to make a motion that we approve the 2021 budget.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Tom? Motion
Since
is
I
second
said second.
to approve the budget for 2021. Now discussion.
Was it Matt, second?
Yeah, Tom?
Question.
Yes.
On page 34, it shows the budget amount is 220,168. In the, near the bottom of the first paragraph on the page, it lists 219,168.
There's $1,000 in there for interest income estimate,
Oh, okay,
if you look on this sheet here.
okay,
Okay.
okay, so it's not in error.
Got a problem?
Okay.
Question?
Any other questions from the board members? Nathan?
Just a comment. I'm going to reiterate my concern about why we're doing this. Again, from my perspective, we're taking money from tax-paying people, and I know Director Koth will drive home the point that he thinks that it's a pittance and that everybody should be willing to just pay it, no matter what it is that we come up with. I disagree with that. I think if somebody doesn't approve of what we're doing and doesn't see value in what we're doing, then to them it's just a waste of money. And I don't know why it is that we're asking for the full increase when we're going to have $300K in the bank sitting there, and we don't have anywhere near what we're looking at as far as bringing in for expenditures for next year queued up for projects. So especially now, we've got a pandemic that's been sweeping across the country. We've got a lot of people that have had issues with employment. There's a lot of angst in the population, and I think, from my perspective, I think this is foolish, and I think it sends the wrong message. It tells people that we don't really care about what your concerns are or whatever. We're just going to ask for the maximum amount because we can. I don't think this is what we should be doing. I think at the most we should be asking for no increase, and from my perspective we should be asking for less.
Okay. James?
I've mentioned this many times, and I guess it falls on deaf ears because maybe you don't think it's real. Are you guys aware of how many homes in Pennington County are foreclosed on, not by the banks, but by the state for back property taxes? That's how they steal houses. For taxes. For the taxes we're asking for. And you frivolously decide in an hour, you spent a quarter of our budget on one project that's soil erosion, which it's a stretch to say it's for water quality when it's nowhere near a watershed. And the other one without any physical estimates, and that's all, my only requirement was, please bring me a physical estimate. And
Redone.
yeah, and I think we should keep the budget at 200,000. It would mirror what Rapid City, Pennington County, and the state's done. And for us to be the only ones in the jurisdiction to be raising it seems grandiose.
Go ahead, Nathan.
I was going to add one more thing in regard to that, because I think maybe some of the people that sit on the board here live in a bubble. I was at a meeting last week of common working people, and somebody at the meeting mentioned that I sat on the West Dakota Water Development District Board, and that I have been a champion for trying to rein in the taxes that are being paid by the people in the room. And guess what happened? Everybody in the room applauded. Everybody. So I don't know how many of you have had that experience, going to a meeting and having somebody call you out and having the people in the room applaud you because you've been a champion for them. But I did, and I was proud of it. And I recommend that you all pursue that same experience. Thank you.
Okay. Any input from the public on our budget for next year?
I have something, if I may, sir.
Sure. Could you identify yourself, please?
Ken Delkin, I live in, between between Keystone and Hill Center. So I'm in the county. I looked up, I usually can't get down here to these meetings, but I listened to the last meeting, and I'd like to know why, I think Director Jovic made a recommendation that we go to 190,000, which is similar to what Director Moss did, I think, a couple years ago, if I remember correctly. But Mr. Driscoll wanted to go to 219. Why did you want to charge the taxpayers 30,000 more when you have all this money in the bank?
You probably haven't been following, a lot of what I've been looking at. This is the first time I've seen you at these meetings. This erosion control project that I've laid out at the last meeting is a thrust area, along with one of stormwater management, another thrust area. The amount of work that needs to be done in these arenas is immense. Rapid City was built, much of Rapid City was built before stormwater management was something anyone was aware of. Parking lots were built to drain directly into streets. There are many, many problems out there that could be mitigated if a group like West Dakota could bring some resources to the table to help fix these things. Similarly, all these areas around town where we've got all this erosion going on, carrying sediment directly into the stream, these are going to be a long-term problems to fix, and it's not just within the city. We've got similar problems out in the country, and I had spoken with Mr. Stankin, who's on the Pennington Conservation District Board of Directors, about mentioning to the board, to that Pennington County board, was it Thursday of last week that you met, Ken, of our interests and our interests in applying these programs, you know, in farm and ranch land. Was that mentioned to the board there by you? Was that well received by the board, or?
Yeah, they're very interested in that. They think Rapid City is a big contributor to their issues that they have, especially people who live along the creek east of Rapid City.
So I see an immense amount of money that needs to be spent to fix these problems, and so I recognize the need for the funding.
Okay, my thought is, thank you for your explanation. My thought there is that people are having a hard time. A lot of people now out of work, and like Director Barlotta mentioned that some people are losing their homes because of taxes. What's to hold up? I mean, why can't you hold up 1 year on that?
Well, what happens is you reduce your tax base and you live with that reduction forever.
Well, if people have losing their jobs, they're losing their tax base anyway. So that's my question on that. And I believe that's the only thing I had. Oh, and thank you, gentlemen, for trying to get our rate down. That's appreciated. Like I said, usually can't make the meetings down here, but this one did pique my interest, especially being on a fixed. Oh, that's the other thing. Well, I was listening to the crosstalk. I couldn't figure out who said it, but somebody said, and I don't know who it was because it's not on TV, that it wouldn't make a bit of difference or whatever. But to a lot of people who are on fixed incomes, disability and that, like, it does make a difference. You start adding them up, they do make a difference. That's my input.
Okay, well, thanks for coming to the meeting. Appreciate your input. One of the things, on this increase is $7,700. But part of that equation is how, there's new homes being built in our area. A lot of them in Rapid City right now, and even out in your area, Hill City is growing. And so the economic base from the value of those homes is part of this equation. So the fact that we're asking for another $7,700 does not necessarily mean that your taxes are going to go up, and that they may not. It's based on the mill levy. So it's not a for sure thing that your tax, the $10 or $20 or whatever you're paying a year for our will actually go up.
Well, they definitely won't go up at 190. So that's definitely.
But I don't know if they go down either. I don't.
It's a symbol of it.
But I understand what you're saying. But when there's some saying that our taxes are going up, my taxes are going up, it's not necessarily true. And the same way with you, sir. It depends on what the county comes out with for a mill levy. Okay. Any other comments from the public? So we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the 2021 budget as presented. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Nay.
No.
Nay.
Roll call, please.
Okay, roll call. Code. Aye. Bierke.
Aye.
Driscoll.
Aye.
Jovic.
Nay.
Nodigal. Williams.
No.
Mack.
Aye.
Violata.
No.
Harris.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Next is item 15, progress report from Jason Phillips on the stormwater inventory. Dan?
Well, I'd invited Jason to give us a little update. It's a pretty short-term project, 6 months or so duration, and so I think it's good that we hear what's going on a regular basis. So he's prepared a written progress report that's included in the packet. There will be no action on this, just purely informational. So here's Jason Phillips to tell us what he's been starting in with.
So, thanks for having me here. It's always fun to listen to you guys do your work. The memo pretty much covers it. That progress report, the main kickoff meeting was on the 13th. We met with Pennington County, can't remember the name off the top of my head. And then with Brandon with the city, and Dan, and then myself and Heidi were all on a Zoom call. we determined the 5 basins. There's the kind of the alternate basin in there. So I've been working with the city, obtaining GIS data. They're kind of in the process of moving from home back into their offices. So I haven't got all the data that we're going to need, but they're in the process of uploading it to the cloud, and then we're going to have access to it. So we'll have the coverage for the 5 basins that we've determined in there. I had a pretty lengthy conversation with Brandon yesterday on impervious surfaces and what kind of coverages they have. And right now they're using estimations and assumptions of, neighborhoods 35% impervious, and there's, max lot cover is 35%. And, so they got their different formulas of how they assess impervious areas, but they don't really have an understanding of how much impervious area is really there, what's really directly connected. And so this project we're by no means tackling that endeavor because it's a huge one, but this is a start to get that ball rolling. And so that's where we're at. I'm developing a field sheet to go in the field and start rating these potential areas of stormwater management. So we're going to look at the green areas versus impervious areas and kind of have a ranking system and kind of do a little trial run and see how that goes and start developing a process that we could keep applying throughout. So, James.
Well, I wish you did this 15 years ago. The NOAA drainage basin, I've complained to the city of Rapid for a decade and a half. No kidding, at least 15 years. Because that drainage basin, we looked at the elevation map, actually sits at a higher elevation than the properties below it. So the water goes right through the berm.
What drainage basin are you talking about?
Knollwood. Yep. So the berm, floods water right to people's homes, all along it, because that's what they did. Developers put a berm there so they could sell those lots and called it good. But nobody has excavated that basin to take all the sediment and growth out. In at least the 15 years I've been there, more than 15, but all that built up material from the growth of plants and sediment, animals and people. Anyway, it builds up, and it builds up quickly with nobody mowing it. And unfortunately, the berm goes right through 3 of my neighbors' properties, straight to mine. It runs a nice little channel. We have, in fact, put up signs and fishing poles out there one day to show city engineers how fast the water flowed through our yard, and begged and begged and begged for stormwater improvements. And that didn't go anywhere until 45 neighbors on my block decided they'd contact an attorney for a class action lawsuit to sue for the stormwater we've been promised for more than a decade. And wouldn't you know it, the Knollwood Woodlawn project is underway. Hopefully it'll be completed by this fall. But you have to argue with the powers that own it. You can tell them till you're blue in the face. You can show them the engineering. They don't care. I even identified sewer lines that went from 10-inch down to 8-inch, and they claimed it was not a problem. Not realizing they overpressurized and overvolumized the line, which of course backed up 45 neighbors of mine. But city owns it. You can't force them to do it unless they decide to do it. Or you sue them, and then they decide, hey, it'd be a good time to do this so we don't have to pay. So I applaud it. I know the Robbinsdale one. I got a bunch of friends down there that would love you to tackle that one, because they have the same problem.
This project is not to solve the problem, right? For $24,000 and the school mind's doing it, we're not solving these problems. So there's a discussion, right? We don't want to raise taxes. Well, how are we going to pay for it?
Well, this is city-owned property. Unfortunately, they haven't maintained it.
Water, right? It's all one water, storm water, drinking water, sewer water. We're all in this together. Upstream, downstream. I mean, this water is very important.
But
so we need to protect it. So instead of all this argument and fighting, you guys really should be talking about how are we going to do this?
We
That
tried.
would be the great conversation. I would love to sit there for 3 hours and hear that conversation.
Next time I go to the city engineer's office, you can come with me. We tried. They have a specific rainwater tax on every resident in town.
We have a
And they
separate zone,
won't
James.
do the
One thing
storm
I have to
drains.
correct you on Is we don't have a combined storm and sanitary sewer system. Our
Right, they're
stormwater-
separate.
Our stormwater does not flow to the wastewater treatment plant.
No, it's separate.
It does flow into Rapid Creek.
Or
And
to
the basin that
basins.
you said the school of mines does not go on there. I had videos and videos of the dirty sediment. It looks like corroded.
And it goes down St. Joe.
contaminated Water coming off of that hillside, running down the street. I brought Dr. Kenner out there. I said, what is this? What's going on? It hasn't rained and water's just percolating out. It's all just nasty. And it goes right into Rapid Creek. I mean, it's the downtown watershed.
But what my
We
point
sit
is,
on the downtown watershed. We're in it.
my point is the city bills residents already at an enormous rate to fix these
Our
problems.
stormwater fee.
Yeah, they have a stormwater tax.
So we copied Sioux Falls stormwater, the whole entire stormwater package. And we are substantially less than what they charge Sioux Falls citizens.
Did they tell you in Sioux
So
Falls
hold on,
because
hold
they
on,
had to
hold on.
buy a
I
whole
came here to do an
subdivision?
update. I can't get into an argument.
Yeah,
about
let's,
that.
No,
let's
okay,
stay,
so-
let's stay focused on
No,
it.
I
No,
don't care
so
about that.
I'd like to protect it somehow
Thank you.
in these homes.
Any more questions?
No.
No.
Any other questions? Yes.
I've never seen a term before. What is stormwater inventory? What is that?
So we're doing the project is doing an inventory on impervious surfaces and green surfaces. To do more green infrastructure projects like the Eco Prayer Park. So green infrastructure and low impact developments is an ecologically based approach of managing stormwater. So right now, the water hits the building, runs out the downspout, runs across the concrete, pavement, asphalt, parking lot, into a curb and gutter, into a concrete storm sewer, and dumps into that. Right? And this is the phrase I always use. They're the same people that designed these systems were the same people that thought it was cool to smoke on airplanes. Right? So that's what we're up against, really.
Okay, but the term inventory to me is the storage of some kind.
No, we're trying to figure out what's out there. How much impervious surfaces, where's the green area, how much of it is directly connected, and we're trying to figure that out. We're trying to figure out where's the problem is. So James, I would love for you to email me like where you live, because that will help me go into that area and be able to look at it. All right, how much of this is directly connected? Your friends in Robbinsdale, I would love to be able to have that heads up. So we got boots on the ground, and I could go out there and we could look how much of this is directly connected. That would be
sure.
valuable information.
But I will say the whole list of impervious surfaces, is this only inside City of Rapid or is this outside?
Just these basins.
Okay, these
These are the
basins,
5 basins we've determined. We tried to capture all areas of town and different demographics, different soil types. You know, so we got, the west side, we got way out the valley, we got the south side, we got the north side. So that was kind of the idea.
my point was that since it's taxed by the City of Rapid, there is a list. You should be able to look at that document to where they're saying how much impervious surface is being taxed in what area. It's all outlined because they have to tax for it.
It is, and it's all off assumptions. They assume.
No, they're measuring it off of hard pavement,
The
concrete.
only time they go in and measure it is if you go in and want to I just talked to Brandon about this yesterday.
Okay,
The
well-
stormwater engineer.
Well, the stormwater engineer isn't in charge of the taxing entity, that's
I
why.
asked him, I said, can I get that information? I said,
Yes,
how
you
do
can.
you assess these fees? It's based on your lot area and your impervious surface. So I was like, sweet, we could get this data. And he said, it's all based off of assumptions of you live in a residential area, your max lot coverage is 35% for your structure. They add in a percentage
That's not
of
true.
your driveway and sidewalks, and then they base it for your commercial, residential, industrial, and that's how it's based. Correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
they don't have the personnel to go out there and measure.
No,
it.
they don't.
I
The
said, "Can I
taxing
get this
entity
GIS?"
does.
But it's based.
No,
Of all
okay.
this impervious surface, and he said, we don't have it.
Yeah,
No,
it's-
and I think you're misunderstanding. The engineers don't. The
No
taxing,
one does.
No, the people that are the tax assessors do. You need to go to the assessor's office at the county. Because in the Rapid City assessor,
with the GIS people.
Well,
right,
they
and the
work-
city assessor does, because they
James,
go out and measure.
James, they work together. The information comes from the city and then.
Right,
the
because they're
county
going
assessor.
off your permits and plans for driveways and patios
Yeah.
and everything else. And believe me, the person with a patio pays more tax than your neighbor with none.
So, yeah, I think we need to, we could argue this to death here, but anyway, thanks for coming, Jason. All right.
That's like the big box stores left.
Tanner's comment, the only thing I was gonna remind the board members that there is a Zoom meeting this Thursday with our consultant on the Missouri River Water Pipeline Project with our water right, with the Banner Associates. I did talk to Dr. Chapman and I'll kind of get an idea what the agenda was. And she didn't actually have an agenda at the time. Hopefully we'll have one. But there are some speakers that will be there that have a lot of experience in rural water projects. The head guy from South Dakota Rural Water is going to be there, which we're a member of, and several other people, and some of their, like Dave Odens with Branner, he's was the guy that was really the project manager for Lewis and Clark in the eastern part of South Dakota. So there'll be some very knowledgeable people that will be giving us some information, and any stakeholders that might be attending that. So if you have time, it's 9 o'clock on Thursday, Zoom meeting. And you should have got an email from Dr. Chapman. Did everybody get one?
Yes.
I got one, I can't be there, but,
Yeah.
could I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there going to be some sort of recording so we can listen in on this after the event, or is it gonna be just?
I guess I don't know that, Robert.
Okay, well,
Is
is there gonna be somebody taking notes?
Well, Dan, you're going to be in the office, right?
I'll be in the office if anybody wants to come down to the office and participate there. As far as recording, it kind of, I may or may not be able to hit record on Zoom. It depends how she has it set up. I could ask her.
Maybe we should get a hold of Dr. Chapman and see if they could record this meeting.
They should be able to.
They should be able to, right? Okay. Would you do that?
It's just a matter of whether she wants to or not. I don't
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Don't know the answer.
At our request, there should be no question.
Yeah.
It should be part of our public
Yeah, let's
record.
just, we'd like to have her,
I'll ask her that. I thought the agenda was in the email I sent out to everybody.
Yeah.
It was.
oh, okay.
It's all in there.
Well, I guess the question is, let's ask her to record the meeting for us.
I'm pretty sure that, that they're doing that for all of the meetings.
Oh, good.
That they're
Okay.
holding. So I sat in on one of them, and that was something they mentioned right up front.
Okay.
That they were recording the meetings so that they would have a public record, basically. And it makes sense, because
Yeah.
they're getting paid,
Yep, they are.
so
Good.
that's their way of showing what they're doing.
I don't have anything else. Is there any items from the directors?
Only have one.
Okay.
Director Driscoll, did we ever get back to the people in Keystone that came to our June meeting? That came in at the last minute when public comment said, hey, they lowered Horse Thief Lake, it drained all of its sediment into the church camp, which lowered their pond and drained it all into Keystone. Did we ever get any?
I recall the people from Keystone being there, but I don't have a recollection of any action item for us to get back to them.
Well,
I was
they'd
just
asked
wondering
for it.
If they, if we had additional contact, but it
I've
seemed to
had
me
no
that.
follow-up contact myself personally.
Okay. Is that your, Keystone, your district?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I guess I don't know who they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't write down their name, but I think it's on the official record.
On
Somewhere.
the sign-in sheet?
On the June stakeholder meeting that we had. And he, I think, did sign in. But it
You
would
mean
be
like a
interesting.
year ago, June?
Yeah, I think we are not providing a lot of services to the people in the county.
Well, there was was this at the stakeholders
spot
meeting?
for an idea.
Are you talking about the stakeholders meeting in June?
The stakeholders meeting in June
Okay,
19th.
the engineer, the public works guy, yeah, I did talk to him. Okay, yeah, I did talk to him.
Did he not need their help?
No, he didn't seem to, he just was there to learn, more or less. Yeah, I did follow up with him.
Because they do have, I've had a number of people I've run into as we drive through the Black Hills every Sunday.
Yeah.
That talk about the cattails and so forth that build up in the stream that goes into
Battle
right
Creek?
into-
Battle
right
Creek?
through Keystone.
Yeah, Battle Creek.
They messed up that whole area there, and it doesn't flow as well. And they were asking about dredging, so,
Yeah, I did talk to him after that meeting.
okay, thanks.
Anything else? Nathan?
I wanted to thank Mr. Delfino for coming in today. I appreciate his comments. I think we need more of that. I think voices like that truly represent the silent majority of people out there, despite what the Rapid City Journal would have us believe. I think the bulk of the people that are out there, they're busy working, they're busy living their lives and so forth, and they don't have time, many of them, to come into meetings like this. So I thank Mr. Delfino for taking the time to come in here and for voicing his opinion, an opinion that we often do not hear here other than a few of us on the board. So thank you.
James?
I have two things. One, the stakeholder meeting where Keystone, about as formally as they could, asked for funds. The reason why they were chased away is because Board Member Director Driscoll questioned whether Keystone was in Pennington County at the time.
I'm sure I didn't.
It's on the minutes. You can listen to it. You actually said Hill City and Keystone in Pennington County. You can be heard on the recording saying it.
You can play it back, James.
Play it back to your heart's content. Second, why are we, again, when I thought this was discussed as a board, having meetings where you're not informing other board members that, hey, we're going out to the guard camp, would anybody like to come, that we're only taking 3 people, and it's the same 3 people, that every place we go, all of us happen to be engineers that are still licensed and could do the work. Who else is still employed outside the board?
Does it matter?
Yeah, because there would be a huge conflict of interest if you're still working as an engineer freelance for any of these firms you're pitching deals to. A huge one.
If I was doing something that I felt was conflict of interest, I would bring it up at this meeting. I don't want to go there.
I know that's happened before, relatively recently, when somebody swore they didn't work for USGS anymore, and sure as enough, they did. As a contract employee, going over the very data we were paid to get.
I'm not going to get into that at all tonight. We're getting late, and if somebody has a conflict of interest, we address that at the front of the meeting. Anything else from directors? All right, anything, Dan?
Yeah, I have a couple things here. Director Williams and I were asked to investigate more details on setting up a WQM sampling site or more. And I'm not really saying we need to discuss this much. I just wanted to show you some things we've looked at. If you look at I'll start the DENR 2020 integrated report. Water quality in Rapid Creek for reaches above Rapid City meets water quality standards for directed beneficial uses, period. Rapid Creek segments in Rapid City to the Cheyenne River continue to display poor water quality due to excessive E. coli bacteria levels. So I wanted to mention that. And then I was looking at the DENR database and some of their sampling sites. I pulled up a screenshot of a map here, just to kind of inventory what's out there now that's useful. You see a lot of yellow dots. Most of those are really old data, like 2000, 1998, way back. The ones I found that are current and monthly, I marked here with the number, the designator. So they're basically, it looked like there were 3 of them. So we have one down here above the wastewater treatment plant, one up here on St. Pat, and then one up here, I think that's Dark Canyon. So that's kind of the status, I think, of maybe deciding where to put things, is looking at what we have now if we decide to go forward. And then I looked at the parameters they're measuring. I just plopped the list down here. If anybody's interested, I can give you that. So I'll just move on to the next topic. I updated Joe Bliss. He's the guy from Senator Round's office that we talked to, some of us talked to. I updated him on the Banner project, and he said he wants to keep getting informed on where we're at because he does work. He wants to continue working with rural water in South Dakota. And I reached out to Nancy Maynard, the lady in Box Elder that had PFAS issues on the contamination issue, and kind of a mixed result that she's getting from, they put filters in her place, but they're problematic and they get clogged up pretty easy. They take some maintenance, and apparently she doesn't like Box Elder water, so she won't hook up to it. So I'm just giving you what she told me. And then you mentioned Banner's Zoom meeting, and then looks like Ken left. I sent you guys this link just in case you're interested. This convention here, StormCom, and I don't know much about it. I might try to, it's $50, I might try to participate. I've got some conflicts on some of the dates, but that will be September 9th and 10th. It's stormwater issues. That's all I had.
Okay. Any items, more items from the public?
I got a quick question. Who initiated that contact with Round's office? Did he contact you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
the first contact was, he contacted me.
Okay.
Any items from the public?
One last thing, please.
Sure.
Take about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Can I make them all, please get these from one up on the screen. First of all, first question was, why there was no public discussion on the items that they came along? I mean, that's your policy, with all the total order that changed. My background is I sat on the city council for 4 years, and we always, before we had voting on anything, we always open up the public and then have a discussion. So it's just a question we have here. And I wasn't aware that we can make a motion on an expenditure before discussion. And then, secondly, thank you. The third thing I want to address, a young lady, I'm not a rancher, so her comments do not apply to me. Then also I had a comment on the $190,000 versus $219,000 budget expense. But if anyone tonight spends almost $75,000, when's your fiscal year end?
End of the year.
The end of
It's
the
a
year.
calendar year.
Calendar year.
Okay, then that's, for everyone tonight, that'll be another $375,000. On this particular thing, I looked at this, the last minutes from the last meeting, we had all the maps and everything. This looks like a different angle of that housing place at the top. Is that part of their property? Will be in the black circle? Or is that, I think somebody mentioned it was state owned. state-owned?
I can address that question.
Okay.
That, I closely checked on Rapid Map. Actually, Ron showed me an app on his phone. That's entirely within a parcel owned by School of Mines. So,
When we were out in the field, with the School of Mines people, we looked at where their boundaries were. This project is within the boundaries of the state of South Dakota School of Mines.
Okay, then and they're asking, did they ask any other government entity for money for this? To share in the money, like, or the school district, I don't know what their school district is, or federal money, they'll pay for that? Or just all on us?
For what, sir?
To pay for the fixing up that they want to do up there?
No, they asked us. We funded it this evening.
Right, I know that, but did they go like to the, who owns the property?
School of Mines, state of South Dakota.
Were they putting any money into this?
Yep.
Yes.
How much money are they putting in?
Well, Game Fish and Parks is putting in $48,000.
It's in town, so.
The school itself?
Isn't those students going to work out there?
Okay, so it's coming out of taxpayers again.
Oh.
Yeah, just one of those clarifications.
Yeah, it's taxpayers' money, yes.
I will mention relative to that we anticipate that the city of Rapid City, they had explained, will likely be able to contribute compost and trucking of it to be used in, we're probably going to have to place, some amount of compost and topsoil and tie it down with geofabrics, things like that. And we anticipate that the city will be able to provide that at no cost. We'll be able to contribute.
Well, it'll be a cost to the solid waste division of the city of Rapid City Public Works Department. So there's going to be money involved that the city's going to put in from one of their enterprise
Saying
funds.
they're putting in garbage for this.
What?
Almost like saying they're putting in garbage for this.
Well, it's compost. Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for your comments, and I think we're ready to adjourn. Is there a motion? All right. Tom?
Okay.
Do you have something? You have something, Barry? No. Oh. All right, the motion was by Tom to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Robert. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion adjourned. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Hey, Dan Driscoll, before you use city compost, send it off to a biological lab. The reason why Jerry Wright's compost experiment failed was full of anti-foliant.
Full of what?
Foliant. Yeah, and weed killer. That does not come out during the mulch process.
I'll mention to the mines folks,
Yes, sir.
sounds like a good thing. Well worth
Because putting defoliant down really won't help them grow anything up there. And most of the weed killer that's in it would kill any natural plants.
Well,